Hi everyone, and a warm welcome to you, especially to those of you joining me for the first time. Today we're covering electronic antenna repair, servicing, replacement, general maintenance, and this was requested by Stephen Johnson from the United States of America. Welcome to you, Stephen. I hope we're going to cover everything that you need to know today. Now, the power antennas come in multiple sections. And just breaking it down slightly, you've got the rod section, which is a 6-piece telescopic rod. We have the motor, we have the wind-up mechanism, and we have the control mechanism. Now, generally, these are incredibly reliable, but like anything on a car, if you don't do regular maintenance, you're going to have problems. Now, everyone thinks that this is a really simple mechanism. It goes up, it comes down, it goes up, it comes down. Nothing to it, but it's a little bit more complicated than that, because if we take a look at the rod mechanism itself, you're going to notice that each piece of the rod fits very tightly into the piece below, and there's 6 sections in all. If when yours goes up you don't count 6 sections plus the bottom sleeve, then you've got something jamming in there, or this piece is broken. Now, if it's just something jamming, that's a big problem, because it won't allow the mechanism to wind all the way up, and it'll put an additional load on the motor and you risk burning out the motor. Now, the reason these get stuck is either there's a bend in the antenna, which would have been done purposefully by someone because there's no way it would bend on its own, or you haven't carried out proper maintenance over the years. And this is the most common thing, because over the years you're going down the road and all the muck is building up on the face of that, and every time the rod goes down, that muck is forced into the sleeve, and eventually you get so much muck that this thing becomes absolutely jam solid and you cannot even pull it out. Now, if you're lucky enough to purely have it sticking, then now's the time to take the time to do a little bit of maintenance and cure that problem before it turns into a really expensive job. Now, the entire motor assembly will cost you more than a new car, so you really want to avoid that. But the second option is, if just this section gets broken, you can buy just this section for repairing. This will only cost you half the price of a new car. Now, if you just take a quick look at the part number you're going to be needing if you need to replace this section. Now, I've just bought this new one, and I believe this was around about £60, around about $75, $80. And by the way, in the future, I think I'm going to quote all prices in dollars, because there's so many of you from all around the world, almost everyone knows the exchange rate for dollars. But if I start quoting in pounds, not everyone knows the exchange rates. So I may well quote in dollars in future. So anyway, around about $75, $80 for this simple rod for your antenna. Once you fork this out once, you might think twice about not maintaining it in future. Now, maintenance is quite simple. All you need to do is fully extend your aerial. If I can get my man in the front to extend the aerial for me. And as you look at this one, you'll see there's muck built up around the edges here. All you need is a simple rag, some WD-40 or a similar product, and you're just going to clean up and down the rod, trying to get as much muck out as possible. Allow the oil to run into the stem if you can. That will just help to keep it lubricated. And that's it, as simple as that. Just a couple of cents will save you $80 odd in order to save this problem in the future. So if we put the antenna back down. Now, this job is pretty much a 2-man job. You can do it with 1 man, but it will involve disconnecting the car battery. If you don't want to spend time disconnecting the car battery, you can just have someone in the car doing the operation for you. Now, if we look back at this rod again, you'll see we've got a small sleeve at the bottom here. Now, this sleeve is the only thing that holds this entire rod assembly into the main antenna assembly. And to allow that to come out, all we need to do is remove this single nut up the top here. Now, there is a special tool for doing this, but as I always say, these videos are for the man at home, and you don't want to fork out on a special tool to do something that can be done with a standard screwdriver. Now, if you've got one with a nice big tip, you can either do it this way, or if it's quite tight, come in from the side and just turn it round like that. Once you get it going, they generally undo quite easily with your fingers. So we remove those pieces there. Now it will allow us to pull the entire rod assembly out. And usually this is all you need to do for a quick repair if you find your antenna won't go all the way up because it's stuck or broken inside. So if I get my man to turn on the radio in a second, you need to watch exactly what happens when the antenna goes up and what I do to finish pulling it out. So if we turn it on now, you're going to watch all the sections go up, let it keep on going until it stops, and then you just pull it all the way out. It cannot be any simpler than that. Now this one isn't broken, so I don't actually need to replace it. But while this is out, I'm going to talk about the procedure for if this breaks, because a part of this will remain inside the antenna body. And if it's stuck inside, you cannot get the new one fitted. So we'll leave this out for a second. You will need to do this even if it is broken. You've still got to get this section out. So do what I just showed you, and then I'll show you what to do if there's a piece broken inside. At this point, we're going to cut the film so my cameraman can come around the other side, and then we'll carry on from there. Okay, so now before we move on, just a quick explanation of the tools you're going to need. Just a couple of simple tools, a Phillips screwdriver and an 8mm socket piece. Now, both tools will become apparent as we go along. I did forget to mention at the beginning that you're going to need the flathead screwdriver. I do apologise. You will need something similar to that. The tool you decide to use is entirely up to you, just to undo that nut at the top. So we start off with a Phillips screwdriver. Now, as you may have noticed, I've already removed the interior trim here. This was covered in a previous video. So if you're not familiar with how to get this out, just refer to the previous video. I believe it was called boot stroke trunk interior trim removal. You only need to remove this, the back panel and the side panel and the toolbox, and you should be able to do it from there. So now we're looking at removing the rest of the antenna assembly. Now to do this, first of all, we're going to unplug this cable here. There's a clip at the back that you'll need to push in, and then you just pull the plug down. Next thing is you're going to need to remove the drain hose. Again, just wiggle it and pull that one off. And the final one is the antenna signal cable, this one here. Try not to pull on the cables themselves, pull on the plugs, because if you pull on the cables, there's always a chance that you're going to break the cable. So that's everything disconnected from there. Now we've got a simple 2 Phillips screws, one here and one here. And then we just gently work this out through the holes that it goes through. You may have to turn it slightly, but it will come out easily. Do not pull it, because there's a risk this top piece will come off inside and it may drop down into the bowels of the car and you'll have trouble getting it out. So just work it slowly, find the easy route out. Now we'll take this over to the bench. Now what we're going to need to get to is the mechanism inside here. This is where the plastic gets snapped and stuck inside. And to do that, just a couple of simple screws and a socket piece. We'll start with taking this nut off here. Then push the bolt through out the other side, and you're left with a washer here. Now we've got 4 screws to undo. Three. And 4. Okay, now all we need to do now is remove this cover. Now when they assembled this, they used a rubber sealant, which is a little bit sticky, and you might have trouble pulling this off by hand. So if you just get a screwdriver here and just lever that top piece off, and then inside you'll see this plastic wheel. Now this is where the broken plastic will be if you've got a broken antenna rod. All you need to do is remove the broken piece and then just simply put it back on there and reassemble the mechanism. It's as easy as that. And I went and put it round the wrong way. It will only go one way, so don't worry if it doesn't fit. You just turn it round until all the screw holes line up. Now we're going to start by putting this nut back in, or the bolt I should say. Whoops. Then the washer, then the nut on the other side. Now when you go to do this up, it's not to be done up really tight, you risk cracking the plastic. It's literally just nip it so it won't come loose. Now those of you with a sharp eye would have noticed that a nut fell out. That nut goes into this hole here. And all that allows us to do is put the screw through into the nut. So your first screw goes back in there. And your second one, whoops, your second one in there. I'll just do those up. Same with this center nut. You're just going to nip these up, nothing too tight to crack the plastic. Now onto the other side, you'll notice one piece of the metal goes behind and one goes in front. So we'll put one in there. If I can find the hole. And then this one in here. And you'll do those up. Okay, so that's the repair done to the main mechanism. Now we're going to insert it back into the car. Now there's a couple of things that I want to point out before we reinsert this. Oops, that's part of my roof. The first thing is, when you go to put this up, it won't push straight into the hole. You're going to have to turn it slightly until you find the entry point. Second thing is, make sure this cable is connected. If that's not connected, where it is now, you're going to get some buzzing or poor sound. So make sure that one's connected. So now, if you locate the hole, which is a square hole up the top there, we're going to put that through. That one went in nice and easy. And we're just going to line it into position with the screws here. You're going to put in the top one first. And the reason you're going to do the top one first is it allows you a free hand now to grab this wire and the screw. This is another essential wire. It's the earthing wire for your antenna, helps to stop the buzzing. Now you're not going to do them up tight at this point, because if you do them up tight and the top isn't lined up properly, then you're just going to have to loosen them off, or you're going to end up forcing something and breaking it. The next thing I need to point out is this drain hose. Any water that goes into the antenna is going to collect at the bottom here, and they've allowed for the water to run out the bottom through this drain hose and out through the bottom of the car. Now you notice this hose here has got a kink in it, because over time the rubber's become weak, and what's happened, because it's kinked, it's now blocked the water from going out through the bottom of the antenna, and in turn that's going to end up doing damage. So it's worth getting, if yours is kinked like this, it's worth getting a new piece of hose that hasn't got the kink, or maybe you can just cut a little bit off and then reconnect it. Now I'm just doing a demonstration here, so I'm just going to put it in there. I've told you what the problem is. And the final one is your power cable. Now, the final one will be your antenna cable. So now the main mechanism is back in the body of the car, we can now look at the rod itself. Now this one is not broken, so I'm going to be reusing this one, but through years of neglect all the muck has built up, so we're going to give it a quick clean before reassembly. All you need to do is full extension, grab yourself a rag and some WD-40. Now if you start by just spraying this, and put some onto a rag, and then all we're going to do is, while it's at full extension, we're just going to clean all the muck and dirt and salt off the roads and everything else off. A couple of times you might want to put it back in and then pull it back out, and you'll see each time you're doing it, it's pulling more muck out. So get as much muck off as you can. The cleaner it is, the longer it will last. Now in the manual it doesn't mention anything about maintenance or cleaning, certainly not the manual I've got. So I don't know if we're supposed to oil this officially or not, but I would suggest at the very least running some WD-40 through it from time to time just to clean it could not do any harm at all. And perhaps put a very light oil on it as well to protect it. So there we go. That's now ready to put back in. Now the reassembly procedure is similar to the disassembly procedure, but for a couple of things. You're going to start off with the rod at absolute full extension. Then your man inside the car is going to make sure the radio is on at the position it was before, so your antenna would have been set to full extension. So if he could turn that on for me now, the motor will go up. Now what we need to do is get this as straight as possible at the end. This is going to allow you to guide it down the main tube, and when you put it in, you're going to put it in so that the teeth are facing towards the interior of the car. And you're going to feel the mechanism go in. Whoops. Damn, this is a real curly-whirly one. It's a lot easier with the new one. I'll just lay that there a second to help. Just wiggle it around until you find the guide hole where it belongs. There we go, it's going in more and more. Keep on turning and wiggling. Always keep it more or less facing the interior though. Okay, I think we're in position. Now at this point, yeah, that looks about good. At this point, you're now going to turn it so the teeth are facing the back of the car, and your man inside is going to turn the radio off. Now when he does, you need to be prepared because it's going to start dragging this into the car now, and you're going to guide the metal sleeve straight into that hole there as it goes down. So if he turns it on now, or turns it off I should say, you see it goes in, you guide that in, the antenna goes down. Now if it doesn't go down properly, it means you didn't guide the teeth in the first time correctly. So I'll demonstrate it just one more time. If we put the antenna up, whoops, all the way up, procedure, fully extend your antenna. You want this end with the teeth facing the inside of the car. This allows you to bypass the motor mechanism until you're in position. Okay, that feels about right. Now we turn it so the teeth are facing the back of the car. Make sure your antenna's pulled all the way to its full length. And with it facing the back of the car, it should engage the motor. Turn the radio off. And guide your rod into position. So simple when you know how to do it. Now we'll continue reassembling the antenna. If I clean some grease off here. Now we have the three pieces that go on here. One fits inside the other. And this one goes onto here. Now you'll find over the years muck has built up around here, and if muck has built up, it will allow water to get in, and if water gets in, it's going to fill up the inside of your trunk, and in turn you're going to end up with a rotting trunk. So make sure you clean around the edge here. Also, if over the years this rubber has become a little less supple than it should be, you won't create a good seal. So just put some silicone sealant or a similar type of rubber sealant that remains fairly flexible. Just a very light smear around there before putting this on. You'll also notice that this is tapered. The tapering is to meet with the taper of the car. So usually it will be this way round, and you want it so it's more or less level with the top of the antenna across that face there. Now finally you just want your nut, and you'll start screwing that on while holding on to your rubber. And then you'll use your flathead screwdriver again, just a couple of turns to make sure that's nice and tight, but not overly tight. There you go, feel it lock into place, and that's all you need. So now we can go back to the interior. Those two screws that I said leave slightly loose, now you can finish doing those up nice and tight. Okay, job done. So best case scenario, it needs cleaning. Worst case scenario, you need to replace the rod. Either way, it's going to save you an absolute fortune on a complete new antenna assembly. So I think that pretty much covers it. I believe Stephen Johnson requested this, so thanks to you, Stephen. I hope this answers all your questions. You can see what an easy job it is once you know how, and I look forward to doing more videos for you all in the future. So thanks for watching. More videos coming up soon. Please remember to subscribe and like, and once you're subscribed, click on the bell and you'll get automatic updates of all the videos coming in the future. Thanks for watching.